Hi guys, welcome to Andertons, and me and Mike are going to demonstrate the new SPD-SX-Pro. Should we just call it Pro for short? Both of us have got bored of saying the bit that's the same as the old one. So, the new Pro SPD. You've played it and made it sound amazing, but let's explain what we've got here. So, apart from just being a mishmash of things we've stolen from the store display area, which is exactly what this is, we have all the backing tracks, all the pads, all the cymbals, everything you see is plugged into the back of the SPD. So this is an entire little setup, completely separate. So there aren't any backing tracks running from the laptop or anything like that. It's all samples and presets as well, isn't it?
All presets.
All presets that are already in the new SPD.
Yes.
So let's explain how we did that first.
Okay, so with the use of a couple of splitter cables, you'll be able to see better than I can.
Yes, so one point to make, it has to be stereo at the input of the SPD into two monos, otherwise it doesn't know which sound to play if it has two stereos. So that's a good point.
Yeah, but we have the kick and the snare running on one splitter cable, the rack tom and the floor tom off another splitter cable. The hi-hats are running as a stereo pair. And we also had
Crash
and the ride running as a splitter cable as well.
With the hi-hat as well, when you plug it in, hi-hat is what, 5 and 6?
It can be wherever you want it to be.
Ah, but then it signs to this pad, doesn't it?
Well, if there is a hi-hat already assigned to your 9 pads, then you can control it with the hi-hat controller as well.
Which is super cool. So you can literally, if you have a 2-piece one or even just a FD8 and an
FD9,
an old one, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can still control the open and close and use that as one of your hi-hat pads. Super cool.
Yes.
We've got just a single snare, haven't we? But you could have head and rim on a snare if you wanted that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
to give you the rim shot. Yeah.
There's so many options and so many choices, and we literally plonked this together to show you. So it's quite a cool setup with one rack tom and the VAD actual acoustic drums, but you can get it to your exact setup or hide it in an acoustic kit.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? BT1 and a KT10 or something. Do you know what I mean? You can hide it all. So yeah, options are endless options. So how did you then assign sounds to the pads that we had in, didn't we?
Yes. Yeah. Just through the app, to be honest.
Should we have a look at the app?
Yeah, we can do. Yeah. So if we go back to a kit that we actually used, so 80s Magic there, literally just went over here to the tag list, tagged in kick, and brings up your list of kick drums then, and only your kick drums, which is very, very helpful. And then all I did was select what kick drum I wanted, and then just dragged it right across and stuck it in where the kick drum is assigned to or currently plugged into, and did exactly the same with snare drum. So,
and these are all presets, by the way, so
absolutely
you could have your own WAVs inputted, but these are all presets.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely right. Actually, good point. These are all the
onboard
internal sounds. Yeah, and the tag feature on the app is actually really good, because it saves you trawling through hundreds and hundreds of kick drums and snare drums just to get to your ride cymbal selection or your snare selection, whatever you're looking for. It just saves a lot of time in pre-production, basically. And yeah, that's exactly what I did for every sound or every element of the kit that we've got connected. Just dragged and dropped any particular sound that I wanted into its space.
And the app is also like one of the windows on the actual screen. Is it's got your 9 SPD pads and then your 8 external pads, 2 different colours, so you can even work out which is which and just drag across.
Absolutely, yeah. So exactly what you said there. The main or the middle of the app, the editor, you have your 9 pads, and you can just drag and drop your samples into there. And then on your right hand side where it says trigger in, there are all your external triggers. And also at the bottom of there, again, you've got your foot switches as well. You can literally do anything on the app in real time as well. So you can change things like the LED color. So if I change the horizontal top line to pink, and they change in real time. There we go. So there you go. The top line is all just changed to pink.
And if you say didn't have your SPD plugged in,
Yeah.
and you were working on your laptop,
Yeah.
and you changed it to pink,
Yeah.
the next time you plug your SPD in, it would update, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You can do sort of disconnected pre-production on a laptop, which is super cool as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. We can even do it right here and right now on the SPD-SX itself. We go to pad LED, and if we go to the bottom line now and we change the color to,
which is also changing on the laptop.
Exactly. Yeah, in real time as well. So if you change something on your laptop or on the SPD, it's really handy to actually work between the two, because you might find that certain menus in the SPD-SX are easier to find than on the app, or the menu finds on the SPD-SX as opposed to in the app itself. So it's just handy to work between the two.
Or if you're a teacher and trying to show someone how to use it and want to screen record it like we are.
Exactly.
You can screen record it on your laptop.
Yeah.
There's other cool things though. You can assign clicks and things through the app as well, can't you?
Yes.
To a pad and...
Absolutely. So when you go to kit click, you have you can play the internal click. You can play your imported wave sample. So if you've got a click that you've already pre-recorded, so if something like you're changing time signatures and you have a dedicated click for that, you can just import that and assign that as the click sound, and then allocate it to I don't know, a backing track that you're using or a trigger pad, and it won't assign to the trigger pad, but your trigger pad is essentially launching the click sound, which is all controlled from the internals of the SPD-SX. So you don't allocate a pad to the click track, if that makes sense.
And basically, if you're a prog rocker like Craig is, and you're doing loads of different time signatures, and it's a whole 10-minute track, you can just put the whole click as one thing.
Absolutely.
Which is super cool.
Yeah. There are a couple of kits that I've got.
There's other things like you can put a screensaver on, can't you? And all sorts of...
Yeah.
Because it's colour.
Exactly. And you can actually import your own screensaver as well. So, your band's logo or anything like that, you can just save it to a USB stick, pop the USB stick in, and your own band logo can be as a screensaver on...
Or roadies don't touch, or...
Exactly, well...
anything you want.
It's another good feature, actually. On the SPD-SX-Pro, you actually have padlock now. So, if you're kit sharing with another band and you have your SPD set up and you don't want them to touch your settings or change your settings, you can just put on there, just turn it on to kit lock, and then no one can mess with your sounds or your settings.
They can just hit it.
Exactly, yeah. Or just leave it alone.
Wow. Well, that won't happen. So what other things... Because the app, basically, this is a whole new app, isn't it? So
yes.
The old one, it was more of a click and drag. It was great, but this does a lot more, doesn't it? So
absolutely.
Let's go through, just touch base with some of the other things it can do.
So, as we were talking earlier, you can layer samples as well, exactly like the TD17, the TD27, the TD50, the TM6 Pro. You can now layer two samples together, and you can do exactly that on the SPD-SX Pro as well. And each layer has their own EQ settings as well. So as well as going into things like how your layers play together, whether they're mix or fade or crossfade or switch, you can do all of this from the app as opposed to just on the SPD-SX. You've got your output settings, so you can route your outputs prior to going into pre-production. You've got effects that you can assign in the app, pad links, pad mute groups, as we said earlier, your LEDs, as well as you can set up the pad sequencer function as well on the SPD-SX Pro. You can also do that in the app as well as on the unit itself. So to be honest, it's everything that you can do on the unit itself, you can also do in the app now.
What is quite cool though, because I remember I'm using an old SPD with the old app, is I would change things on the laptop to get it, because you might not have the pad, whether you are on a tour bus or on a flight or whatever. You could be working on the next, I don't know, production or next venue or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was really cool that you could click and drag. With this, you can even turn the dials and everything. It's a lot more intuitive, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot more you can do in the pre-production stage on the app as opposed to just on the unit itself. You know, it's a lot more of a pre-production tool now, the app, the editor, as opposed to, like you say, just a means to get your WAV from your computer into your SPD-SX.
Yeah, it's almost making this a whole production tool in itself.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
So let's be honest, this is a tool for live stages, and that's why it's got the flashing LEDs and everything.
Yeah.
But the colour screen is going to be easier to see things, but there's new views, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. And there's more views for you to select from as well, obviously depending on the type of player you are, whether you need to see certain views or whether you just want to see what kit you're on. So, you know, you've got pad view at the minute, which is what it comes on as factory. You can change that to the kit view, which gives you the kit number, the kit name, and the sub name as well. And you can still go into your click settings, your tools and your set list menus from that screen as well. But if we just stick with the pad view for now, if we go to a kit that has some loops on, for example, and we go to play the loop, there is actually a progress bar in the SPD-SX-Pro, so it shows you how far along the loop you are. So this is great for backing tracks if you're not really sure, you know, they're all sounding the same and you want to know, oh, how close am I to the end? Well, you can just literally lean over to the screen of your SPD-SX-Pro and look at the sample, look how far through it's gone. And as we can see from this one, we're just about to come to the end now, but it will loop because it's down as a loop. And there we go, there's the end.
That's something that's worth explaining as well. All the SPD range, there's basically 3 ways to set a sample off, isn't there?
Yes.
A one-shot clap.
Yeah.
A phrase that will last an X amount of length, 1 bar, 4 bar, 8 bar, whatever. Or in this case, a loop that will just keep going until you hit it again. So that's all of them will do that. So that's worth explaining. So a great example of a loop thing, guitarist breaks a string or something, has to switch guitar or anything like that. You hit the loop and you just keep an eye until they're ready, and then you stop the loop by hitting it again. So it's a good way that there's so many different ways to sample, but the whole range does that.
Yeah, it's what you're talking about there is the shot type essentially. You know, whether you have mono, which is just a one shot, alternative, and poly, which when you hit it, it just restarts, and like you say, loop, which obviously just loops and loops however many times you want it to set. The other views that you have on here as well is your layered sounds. So if you've layered 2 sounds together, you can see what's on the lower layer, or also what is on your trigger inputs. So you can see if you've got anything assigned, and obviously if something isn't playing back, you can see, well, why isn't that playing back? The other cool thing on here, which is very helpful, especially when you're with I don't know, roadies or sound guys who say, right, okay, I need you to play a pad, and you play the pad, and then they say there's nothing coming through. Well, this next screen here, which is essentially a VU meter of all the pads. This will help the sound engineer and you just try and discern where the issues is, whether it's in the cable or whether it's in the pad. So this VU meter here, we can just hit a pad, and there you go, you can see the volume levels and where they're going as well. So as you can see here, this pad up here, the top pad number 1 is coming out the master outputs, the headphones, and also the USB out. So we haven't assigned it to come out with the direct outputs. And the other thing that this screen can also tell us when we switch to the individual pads is which pad is actually playing, which pad is actually outputting the sound. And as you know, we've struck pad number 1, and there you can see it. Pad number 1 is showing where the volume is coming out of. So it's all little things like that that have been added to the SPD-SX-Pro that exactly that makes it the Pro version essentially.
Just makes it more of a live friendly. But it's what, a decade of R&D of just people saying, I wish my SPD did this.
Yeah, exactly. A culmination of, like you say, a decade worth of feedback, and that's what we've created.
And it's badass. Because we've got so many outs now, we could say go like kick, snare and overheads to different outputs, couldn't we?
Yeah.
So how do we do that if we were setting it up?
So if we were setting it up on the unit itself, we go to menu, we go to output and effects, and then we hit whatever pad we want to. So pad number 6, at the minute it's coming out of the master output and the headphones. But if we didn't want it to come out of the master output, we can select phones only. You know, we wanted to select it to come out of a direct output. We just press the down arrow and then select which direct output we want it to go out of, whether it's 1, 2, or even as a stereo pair if we really wanted to. If we had a stereo delay, for example, we can send it out as a stereo through the stereo pair.
That's also a good point. All the outs are balanced as well, aren't they?
Yes.
So you can use it as that.
Yeah. So no need for a DI box if you don't really have the extra cash, or the sound guys don't have one. It's absolutely fine.
Right, let's talk about why this is the Pro one. Let's talk about it. Come on. So this has got what? Double the memory?
Yep, 32 gigabytes worth of memory.
Double the outputs out the back, which is how we've set it up today.
Double the trigger inputs.
Double the trigger inputs.
Over 1,500 sounds built in. So, you know, whether that's one-shot samples or the loops. And sound effects as well. 200
kits, is it?
Yeah, 200 kits.
That's definitely more than that.
But to go with the kits as well, we've also increased the steps in the set list. So the SPD-SX-Pro now has 32 step set list as well.
So I don't know if you're into punk or napalm and your songs are only like a minute and a half long, you can have 32 of them.
Exactly.
So I hope that gave you an insight of why this is the Pro. This is the turboed version of the old SPD. I hope we've just shown that you can just do what you like with it. Do you know what I mean? This is entirety plugged into this. There are no backing tracks running and there are no external modules. Everything is plugged into the SPD. So yeah, from that point of view, quirky little cool kit.
Absolutely.
For any information, check out the links below. We've now got them in stock. They're here, they're a thing. Any questions, you can give us an email. But yeah, thanks Mike for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.